March was when the mercury started rising dramatically across India, topping 50 degrees Celsius in parts of the country. By June, there were more than 40,000 suspected heat stroke cases, and by September, an estimate of more than 700 people had died.
We had the most extended period of heat wave.
And signs are pointing to more of those ahead. It's got public policy expert Chandra Bhushan working on solutions to improve disaster response and help people adapt.
We need to protect ourselves from extreme heat wave. But on the other hand, we also need to start talking about providing sustainable cooling solutions, which is affordable to everyone, even the poor.
He says India needs about $1.2 trillion this decade to adapt to climate change.
There will be some investment that will be required, but the situation where the temperature will become so high that it will be unbearable for humans to survive, it will be impossible for humans to survive, will only happen if we continue emitting greenhouse gases at the rate we are doing today.
And it might not take much to tip that scale. Associate Professor Jason Lee is an authority on what heat does to human health and productivity. He says we don't need a 5 or 10 degree jump in temperature for things to go very badly. We're already almost there.
A small snowball can trigger an avalanche. So we are near that threshold, so we don't need to have huge magnitude of change. Incremental small change could potentially induce irreversible damages.
The UN says Asia's been warming faster than the global average, with the warming trend nearly doubling since the 1960 to 1990 period. But there is hope.
There are solutions that have been proven to reduce heat strain. We just need to adapt and apply correctly. Having said that, with modern technologies, artificial intelligence, data science, wearables, right, it is our aspiration to harness on those to pick up the last men or women who are under heat stress. Because heat stress or succumbing to heat stress is totally preventable and no one should die of extreme heat.
There are other extremes as well. Scientists say climate change is leading to more floods, typhoons and landslides, costing lives and crippling economies in what is already the world's worst disaster-affected region.
Biến đổi khí hậu các cái hiện tượng cực đoan như đã nói ở phần trước, đó là tăng lên cả về tần suất, cả về cường độ, và đặc biệt là tăng cái tính bất định, tính đoán định rất khó, cường độ và mức độ tác động nó vượt cái khả năng chống chịu tự nhiên, và đặc biệt là vượt cả khả năng chống chịu xã hội, bao gồm cả nền kinh tế, cơ sở hạ tầng và năng lực của người dân.
The outlook remains gloomy. Scientists say climate change, warming oceans, rising temperatures, they will keep getting worse until emissions are kept in check. And until then, it's a race to brace and adapt.
At the National Disaster Management Authority's headquarters in Islamabad, officers scanned the screens for signs of trouble. Using nearly 300 climate sensors, they track rain patterns and signs of unusual weather disturbances in all 4 of the country's provinces. If needed, a warning is issued and people are evacuated.
अब इस अर्ली वार्निंग और इस एनकॉप का मकसद ये है कि ये हमें अगले 6 महीनों में पाकिस्तान में कौन सी कुदरती आफत आ सकती है उसके बारे में बताता है। तो हमारी इस टाइम इतनी कोऑर्डिनेशन हो चुकी है डिस्ट्रिक्ट के साथ थ्रू प्रोविंसेस कि we are well prepared.
The system was used to alert authorities about flood risk in Punjab province last year, enabling authorities to move over 150,000 people to safety. Barely 2 years in operation. It is one of Pakistan's lessons from the devastating 2022 floods, which submerged 1/3 of the country, killing 1,700 and impacting some 33 million people.
The floodwaters in Pakistan have shattered villages, inundating crops and destroying irrigation systems. It's made survival harder than ever for the poorest and most vulnerable.
2 years on, mother of 6, Naseem Khatoon is still trying to piece back her life after the floods left her and her family homeless and destitute.
Dodo ko pathindo acho jaita mi pawa mata ghar mata saja budi vanyano une ghar me vari pani dindo atpo nang balayu bachi randiu ahin barsad mein.
Pakistan ranks as the world's fifth most vulnerable countries to climate-induced disasters, despite contributing less than 1% to global greenhouse gas emissions. But experts say its problems also stem from man-made factors. In Sindh, for example, deforestation has been rampant for decades, eroding the region's ability to withstand extreme rainfall. On the ground, the Sindh provincial government has implemented strict measures to increase its green cover, especially here in Sindh Spy Forest, which has suffered illegal land grabs and large-scale logging to make way for agriculture. Forest guards now regularly patrol the area.
पाई फॉरेस्ट में भी ये रिजर्व फॉरेस्ट है, इसको भी कट करने पे पाबंदी लगी हुई है, इस पर 144 नाफिज करवाया हुआ है और यहाँ पे जो प्लांटेशन की मूव है वो भी हमारी चल रही है। तो पाई फॉरेस्ट में हमने यहाँ पे सकरन में एक नर्सरी भी बनाई हुई है जिससे हम प्लांट्स लेते हैं और फिर यहाँ पे नेशनल हाईवे के साथ लगाते हैं।
In 2023, the federal government unveiled an ambitious national adaptation plan in which building climate resilience went hand in hand with addressing income inequality and social disparities. The World Bank estimates that a comprehensive response to Pakistan's climate and development challenges could cost some $348 billion by 2030. Islamabad says not just Pakistan, but the global South should come together to demand funds from the West, and that mitigation efforts in vulnerable countries should be funded by the developed world.
$9.3 million tons. That's how much plastic waste India produces every year, almost equal to the combined volume of what Nigeria, China and Indonesia generate. Nearly half of it is single-use plastic like water bottles, sachets, packaging and disposable cutlery. Rahul Nainani's startup Recircle is among a growing number of companies helping to fight the problem. The Mumbai-based company works with a network of rag pickers to collect plastic waste.
The only way to increase our recycling rates is by increasing segregation at source so that material can get collected at a segregated manner and then can reach the right processing facility rather than reaching our landfills and oceans.
According to the United Nations Environment Programme, India mismanages 85% of its waste. It's an alarming number, but unsurprising for a country that's the world's biggest plastic waste producer. 2 years ago, India banned 19 single-use plastic items in a move that experts said was not comprehensive enough, and evidence is clear today that it hasn't worked out. Critics say the ban isn't being sufficiently enforced, allowing manufacturers and retailers to skirt the ban. Hari Ram Mukhia's small convenience store in a Delhi slum caters to the poorest, such as tuk-tuk drivers and daily wage labourers. They are accustomed to getting plastic carry bags for free and can't afford eco-friendly packaging or pay for carrier bags made from paper or cotton. And low-income customers can only afford to buy smaller packets of consumer goods and pay for what they need only when they need it.
और 50-100 रुपए वाला जल्दी खर्चा नहीं करना चाहता है। छोटे-छोटे लोग रहते हैं तो क्या करेंगे, 1 रुपए से काम चला लेता है।
Mukhia says municipal workers collect trash every day in this locality, but they are piling up quicker than they can be cleared. Experts say that's why the solutions must involve micro, small and medium enterprises or MSMEs.
The stakeholders who produce packaging, which means the MSMEs, to people who need education and capacity building as well as advocacy to switch to alternatives, to more effective monitoring and compliance systems and at hand to monitor the ban. I think wherever these systems are in place, the bans are effective.
Many neighborhoods in New Delhi and in smaller cities and villages are seeing plastic waste piling up along the roadside. Not only are they a constant eyesore, but they're also blocking drains and rivers and are public health hazards as well. It's compelled residents like Sugit Grover to take matters into his own hands. He sorts his plastic packaging for reuse and avoids ordering things online to reduce his plastic usage.
I have to think 3 times before I have a chocolate because I know that it'll come in packaging. I probably will not be able to get a unpackaged chocolate very easily. So there are certain things that I have to give up if I have to really maintain this lifestyle.
Government stats show 2/3 of the plastic waste in the country is recycled, but the National Circular Economy Roadmap for reducing plastic waste in India says otherwise, that the country's total recycling rate could be closer to a mere 8%.
From this to this. Blue skies are back in China's big cities. Air pollution levels fell 54% over the past 10 years, faster than any other country in the world.
China set an unprecedented example for how fast a country can tackle air pollution when political will, social will, and resources align.
Government data shows Chinese cities are seeing good air quality about 80% of the time. For Beijing, it was 90% good days in 2023 and about 2% very bad days. That's 8 days of severe air pollution in a year, but 6 were due to sandstorms.
How did China do it? It declared war on air pollution in 2013 with this action plan, now dubbed China's most influential environmental policy, setting out the Herculean task to control air pollution. It moved heavy industries away from big cities like Beijing, encouraged buildings and households to switch to clean heating and electrified road transport.
Air pollution control costs money, and China was willing to pay. The central government invests about $4.2 billion in air pollution control every year. China's airpocalypse, something that made global news headlines for years, looks like it's over. Or is it?
我是结了婚有孩子的，然后现在在幼儿园的时候，雾霾天儿他们就不能去户外。
之前会有这个空气净化器啊，那基本上24小时开，现在就好很多。
所以调前2天好像很差，所以我今天戴着口罩。
My apartment was this.
I also checked in with our Beijing correspondent, Olivia Xiong.
Ta-da! This is my air purifier. I have one here in the living room. I also have one in my bedroom, and I have it on most of the time. While there are windows in the house, obviously, I do have them shut most of the time, depending on the air quality of the day.
And Olivia has something she calls
the mountain index. So if you look out on a really clear, good air day, you're actually able to see mountains in the background. But as you can see from today, the air quality is not great.
Winter is peak pollution season in Beijing, mostly because of increased coal burning for heating and power generation. 99.9% of China's 1.4 billion people still live in areas where average air pollution levels exceed the World Health Organization guidelines. And there are still bad air days. Thick smog hit Beijing in March 2023. That year, levels of PM 2.5, or tiny particles of air pollution, saw a spike after falling for 10 years.
You often see air pollution cited in terms of the number of people it kills. It's millions across the world every year. But that number is so large and so difficult to connect with your own life.
Krista's research team has made that connection. Their Air Quality Life Index translates air pollution into the impact on human life. And it shows people are losing as much as 3.2 years of life on average in China's most polluted region, which includes Beijing. China issued a new air quality action plan in December to cut PM 2.5 levels by 10% by 2025. It's a good move, But experts say these targets are getting harder and harder to meet.
Behind the curtain of the AI revolution are data centers like this one used by Meta in the US state of Oregon, and they require a lot of electricity.
By 2050, we think power demand from data centers specifically, fueled by AI computing requirements, will reach around 8% of global power demand.
That will make phasing out fossil fuel power plants even tougher, especially since those data centers require constant, stable power. Many believe nuclear energy can help bridge that gap because it's a cleaner, carbon-free alternative. Scientists here at the University of California at Berkeley first split a uranium atom nearly a century ago, the second time in the world that had ever been done. Their work would go on to play a major role in unlocking both the dangers and promise of nuclear power, a promise that big tech is now hoping to harness.
Advanced nuclear reactors provide safe,
and they hope to go nuclear by going smaller. Tech giant Google has inked an agreement with Kairos Power to build small modular nuclear reactors, or SMRs. They are a fraction of the size of conventional nuclear reactors and can be assembled at a factory and transported elsewhere for installation.
In that heat,
Microsoft and Amazon have also recently made similar investments. Some experts say those SMRs are also up to 8% more efficient than traditional reactors.
That efficiency gain is exactly what the world needs to meet sustainability goals and also realize a net zero trajectory. And that's an important shift for the sector that we believe features very prominently in discussions with governments and potential off-takers.
Despite advances in nuclear power technology, governments are still hesitant about buying into the idea. Well, nuclear energy has a good safety record overall. Accidents like the 1986 Chernobyl disaster in Ukraine, the Fukushima accident in Japan in 2011, and a partial reactor meltdown at this US plant at 3 Mile Island 45 years ago have damaged public trust. Microsoft is now paying to restart one of the 3 Mile Island reactors in a sign of renewed interest in nuclear energy, but that's also renewed long-held concerns, including around nuclear waste.
There's no way, whether it's an advanced reactor or a small modular reactor or a water-cooled or a sodium-cooled reactor, that you can avoid making long-lasting, deadly nuclear waste with every kilowatt hour of electricity that's generated.
Despite those concerns, nuclear energy, which provides about 20% of U.S. power, has bipartisan support at the moment. It's a big part of the Biden administration's plans to lower emissions, and President-elect Donald Trump recently spoke in favor of smaller modular reactors like the ones Google has commissioned. There's still lots to work out, such as managing environmental concerns. But for now, there's hope that nuclear power can play a leading role in an AI future that's carbon-free.
You're leading the way.
I'm walking through the forested foothills of the Gerolsteiner Dolomite Nature Reserve in western Germany, with scientist Franz May as my guide. He believes this vast landscape can help Europe in its fight against climate change, and he's not talking about the trees.
These rocks are about 200 million years old.
The concept of carbon capture and storage relies on trapping carbon dioxide produced by burning fossil fuels and storing it in a way so it doesn't affect the atmosphere. Scientists say certain geological conditions, like sandstone deposits, can act as natural underground storage tanks for the gas.
There are tiny pores in between the sand grains of the sandstone, and those pores are the location where CO2 is put in. It's a gas and easily penetrates into the rock.
And so this is a natural forming spring?
Carbon is already stored underground naturally. These springs show the carbon bubbles escaping to the surface. But researchers say carbon dioxide emitted by human activity can also be stored and sealed underground using the same types of rock formations.
Well, this is just a small sample of what we can see here above the ground, but scientists believe the real opportunity lies underneath the surface. There are millions of square kilometres of rock formations just like this one, not just underneath Germany, but stretching across to France, the Netherlands and the United Kingdom, which is why a number of European countries are now talking to one another about using these types of so-called reservoirs as a way to combat climate change.
Eberhard Pernot leads the Zero Emissions Platform, a Brussels think tank advising the European Union on strategies for carbon management.
We've got technologies that are available to capture that CO2. We then purify it, we transport it, and then we store it, often in the same places where we take oil and gas from, deep in rock formations, hundreds of meters below the surface, and it stays there permanently. It binds itself to the rock, and most importantly, it keeps CO2 out of the atmosphere.
But opinion has been split. Critics warn the technology is still largely untested, unproven at scale and very expensive. And capturing carbon should not be seen as an alternative to cutting emissions. Some governments, including Germany's, have said that for now they don't support storing CO2 underground amid fears of community pushback over leaks. But Berlin is exploring opening up the practice under the seabed along the country's northern coastline. It's also working with the private sector on using industrial facilities, including cement plants, to capture carbon during production.
It's a very old industry, so the industry such as cement's been around for thousands of years, and having this big change where we address these CO2 is a big moment. We have built the largest CO2 capture pilot outside of China in a plant called Lix in Belgium. That's got capacity to capture 25,000 tons of CO2 per year. That's forming the basis of a module that we will then expand.
The rollout of carbon capture and storage projects remains far from widespread. But industry leaders believe interest will continue to bubble away as a solution towards strict greenhouse gas reduction targets, or to complement those efforts, and perhaps lead to a pipeline of new projects to better balance economic growth and emissions reductions.